everybody? It's Romania Black, and we're on episode 7 of Mob Psycho 100, and we're in the middle of the second act. The last 2 episodes have been really, really good. We found out some things about Mob. We know that he has this secret question mark power level that he can reach when he's knocked unconscious and he's at full strength. That's dangerous and that Mob wants to avoid. We just found out that Ritsu might have some psychic powers, which begs the question, does Ritsu have that secret kind of level to reach that Mob does, or is that just a Mob thing? And I don't want answers, I don't want spoilers, I want to find out for myself, but it's in the back of my brain right now. I'm just thinking of it like, okay, we'll see as we go. But yeah, Dimple-sama's back. Reigen was in the last episode. It was just the last 2 episodes have been really, really good. I hope we see Teru again soon. I have a feeling we will. And then we've also found out that there's different kinds of psychics with people with psychic abilities. There are pyrokinetics, there are people with telekinesis, there are actual telepaths, there are clairvoyant people, and then there are people that actually, we have clairvoyance, pyrokinetics, telekinetics, telepaths, and then people that are, that can actually, what's the 5th one? I've messed up. So there is a 5th one though. I'll probably think of it like halfway through the episode. But so there's all of those. And we do know that Ritsu, Mob, and Teru seem to be all telekinetic. So there's that. But yeah, so as far as the update on the Reigen Thirst Network goes, there's been a lot of stuff the last couple weeks as far as the Reigen Thirst goes. Just to update you all, I know last week I talked about Sans versus Reigen. That's still a thing. And the fan art and community has exploded. I love when things get they get to the point where it's like a little special lore section of the fandom that unless you're like a hardcore fan, you won't know. But if you do know, it's really, really good. Apparently there was an Undertale cafe that opened up, and there were several people that showed up at the Undertale cafe dressed up as Reigen. So I really liked these two. I liked this one guy that was dressed up there. He has Dimple on his shoulder, and he has a silver medal that says 2nd place in the sexiest Tumblr man competition. That's great. And then the other one is just this other man with a different Reigen face in front of Sans. So I told everybody in the Discord, I just like to imagine that there's a convention and it's just everyone dressed up as Reigen, but they have the mask and it's all just a different facial expression. And then someone in the Discord, it might have been Isabel, was like, what a group of sad, pathetic men. I was like, leave Reigen alone. So there's that. But also there was this official art that dropped at this pop-up shop. Let me say, y'all can make fun of Reigen however you want, but the animators, when they go hard on the Reigen Thirst, they go hard. Look at this. Look at this beautiful trio. I love that it's Reigen, Mob, and it's Ritsu. And I love Ritsu has the red suit. It fits I love Ritsu's boots. His lace-up boots with the red suit. Very posh. I love Mob's adorable little cuffed legs on his pants with the little clogs. Adorable. The little suit with the little bolo ties. Adorable. Dimple has the flower crown, of course. But look at Reigen Arataka. Look at that drip. Look at that beautiful plaid vest. Look how fit that is with the jacket over his shoulders like he's some kind of cool guy, and the Oxford shoes. Animators, the Reigen Thirst, you know how to quench it. So I freaking love it. And I love the ribbons, the blue, the yellow, and the green. I love it. The art minor in me is wanting it to be like red, blue, and yellow, but I realize that the green goes better with Ritsu's suit. We'll let it go. So I thought that was really cute, but man, that close-up of Reigen, and it's got his hair pushed back and the glasses. Reigen can rock glasses in the new haircut. I like it. I'm assuming this is to promote season 3, so maybe Reigen gets glasses in the future. That would be really cool. I like that. And then the only other thing I had Reigen Thirst update-wise is that there was this post that was from Twitter that was talking about their Pokemon. And so they said that Mob would have a Mew. Of course he would. And that Reigen would have a Ditto. But if you see the Psyduck there, like we joked that Reigen's team would be like a Psyduck and a Ditto and a Meowth. He'd have a Meowth because of money, obviously. He would have a Ditto because it could shapeshift, right? But I liked the idea, someone said on the Discord that he'd have a Psyduck. And it's like, well, of course, because Psyduck, everybody thinks is a psychic Pokemon, but it's a water type. So it's a kind of a sham. So it fits Reigen perfectly. I liked that a lot. And then finally, this piece of official art from the artist of Mob. I look at Reigen just sitting there in his swim trunks. I love Dimple's little hat, and I love Mob and them making a sandcastle. If you notice, Reigen's like shaking, making the castle because he's afraid it's going to fall over. Mob has psychic powers, so he can just keep it all up there without worrying about it. So I like that we're getting more skin. One's showing some more skin on old Reigen, but I thought that was really good. So that is my Reigen thirst updates for you all. And then I do have a few comments before we start episode 7. QL talks about the way that Mob's name, Shigeo, is written. Shigeo is actually, the way that Shigeo is written in Japanese is the exact same as Mob's. So Mob is not only a nickname, but you can also spell it the exact same way as his actual name. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It's a nice little play on words there. And then KA, I didn't realize this, but KA noted that Onigawara's voice actor is Hosoya. I was like, Hosoya. If you don't know who Hosoya is as a voice actor is, he's Sosuke from Free. He is Nezuko from number 6. But most importantly, he's Reiner Braun from Attack on Titan. And I was like, oh my god, he's Odebek from Yuri on Ice. I was like, I love Hosoya. He's one of my favorite voice actors. And he usually has such a distinct voice. So as soon as I found that out, I went back and rewatched episode 4. And he does put on a little bit of an accent. So Hosoya does. I don't know what dialect he's trying to imitate, but he does put on a little bit of an accent, so it's harder to tell that it's him. But I was like, I was so floored. I thought that was really, really cool. No wonder he's tortured in this series. Hosoya has a bad habit of voicing characters that go through a lot of bad things. So I'm like, funny that. But thank you, KA. That was really cool. EQ noted how the Body Improvement Club was actually based off of a group that the author had met that were really supportive and positive. And I was like, oh, I love the Body Improvement Club. Goda is a goat. They're all amazing. I love how supportive they are of Mob. And I love the fact that the author based them off real people and that they were really, really kind and supportive, and that's what they're based off of. I love them in this show. They are the anchor. Them and Reigen are the anchor that Mob needs. And Ritsu, but Ritsu's going through some stuff right now, so he may not be in the best place to help others. He's got to sort through and help himself out, right? So there's that. And then finally, Anna Kairuin talked about how, like, when Reigen tells Mob about having the special abilities, back at episode 4 and 5, he refers to them not as psychic powers, but as special abilities. And he says, some people are good at math, some people are good at singing, some people have psychic abilities, and some people are good at talking. And Anna noted that her headcanon was that Reigen's special ability is that he's good at talking to people, which he is. So technically he didn't lie to Mob about having special abilities. It's just what those special abilities are, right? So I thought that was really, really cool. And I liked the fact, I said in my reply to Anna that I like the fact that those special abilities, it includes psychic powers along with a lot of other things. So psychic powers aren't necessarily a standout ability. Reigen doesn't make them more special than anything else. It's just they're their own thing, just like all of these other categories. So I kind of like that. It helps Mob. I feel like Reigen's trying to help Mob to not think like Teru and that they're OP and can control everything, right? So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, those are my notes. Episode 7, we are well into the second act of this season. We got introduced to like an adult Esper that seems super mysterious and creepy. So there's that. But I'm very curious to know, one, Dimple's going to try to control Ritsu if he senses that Ritsu has psychic powers. He's going to try to control him. That's going to happen. He's going to try to possess him. And Ritsu may let him because Ritsu is hungry for wanting psychic powers. But I'm curious to know what's going to happen with him and Dimple. What is Mob going to do about this when he realizes that Ritsu actually does have psychic powers? And what is the little psychic group leader gonna do about this too? Because he seemed interested in Ritsu as well. So I don't know. I want Teru to come back into the story, but I figure that that's gonna be something that happens down the road. We gotta deal with Ritsu first. So we shall see. But in any case, I've talked long enough. We're gonna start episode 7 and see what happens. So we're going to start episode 7 of Mob Psycho 100 here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh, buddy. So this episode, Ritsu, Edgelord Supreme, the darker older brother, he has gone to the dark side. Oh my gosh. I'm so amazed by just how different he is from Mob. And Mob being the older brother who, the thing of it is, Ritsu's drunk on all this power, but he doesn't really have a lot of power at all. I mean, he does, but nowhere near like Teru and Mob. Teru, we're going to talk about Teru. He's turning over a new leaf, right? And becoming, I hope he's become Mob's friends. He said he's going to have to go tell Kageyama, so I'm hoping he's become Mob's friend and has told Mom to turn over this new leaf and become a better person, but oh my god, and the wig, okay, but yeah, no, Ritsu being represented by a cactus makes so much sense. Like, he's so prickly, right? He's so prickly and has all these thorns in him, but oh my god. So there was a lot going on in this episode. The whole thing with Reigen was amazing, and the conversation that he had with Mob was amazing. And then this whole thing with Ritsu and the president and the idea of power, it's great, right? And so we're going to talk about this, right? I want to talk about this because I had to bring Whiteboard Queen out because, for one, there was like a whole bunch of schools mentioned. I wanted to write them down. So, and then stuff started happening like all crazy at once. And I was like, okay, what is happening? So we need to break down the results of, so what happened is that there's like a chart of how this has gone down. So what happened was Teru versus Mob. We know that happened, right? And so it says that there's rumors about Mob who kicked around Hanazawa and said, hey, I heard about the shadow leader at Salt Middle School. And they're like, the one in the white t-shirt. The one in the white t-shirt. I was like, Mob wasn't ever in a white t-shirt. I guess they're referring to the Body Improvement Club. So they're referring to Goda, right? So they think that Mob was actually like Goda, but he wasn't, right? Because Mob was in his like middle school uniform the whole time. And so pale and skinny, rumors about Mob kicked around Hanazawa, and they're like, okay, the shadow leader of Black Vinegar Middle School. And so like, you mean white tea poison, right? We're starting to take a life of their own. So Mob has become white tea poison, which is such a weird gang leader name that eventually Ritsu claims as himself. I'm like, oh my god, but like the rumors spread and the gossip takes on a life of its own. And from there, they're like, apparently he'll do anything. This is the title given to Mob whose identity is yet to be revealed. So nobody knows it's really him. A slow-acting poison. Oh my god. And so we see like all the gang members being like ready to fight, saying that they're going to defeat him. So we have, oh my god, this is amazing. We have Miso. We have Miso Middle School and that gang leader Fuji. Oh my god, and they're the ones in the red. Okay, in the red jersey. I just love all the food puns. It's absolutely amazing. And then we have Dojabang? I want to go back to their, what does it say? Oh my god, like he's got all these scars and looks like a martial artist. Yeah, Dobanjang Middle School. And he has like the scars and the big puffy cheeks. He looks like, I feel like that's something cultural in Japan that if you were Japanese you would know. So it's Dobanjang. Oh my god, I cannot. And he looks like a martial art leader. Yeah, Kinzaki. I'll defeat him and make him admit I'm the best. The whole thing running through my head this entire time was, these are middle schoolers. I was just like, there's no way on earth these are 8th graders. There's no way. No possible way. No, I'd be hard pressed to say high schoolers. And then we have the woman with the statue with the water coming out of fountain. It looks like Attack on Titan Junior High. We have the gang leader Akagi. So what we have, Akagi in the purple and white. And I know they're gonna tell us his school like later. The next target, Salt Middle School. Oh my god. And then Mayo Middle School Goza. So we have Mayo. And his is Gozu. And he has the mohawk. Okay. Oh my god. Which is none of them. White tea poisons by prey. And then soy sauce Middle School Bondi. Oh my god. Why? I love this. Bondi. Or Bandai. Oh my god. With the mask and everything. And so a fierce battle. So, okay. So here we have like some statistics. White tea poison, attack power, question mark, question mark, question mark, right? And then Onigawara, leadership 1500, moderate faction 4. And then we have Hanazawa, attack power. And he's like looking away from the camera. So 2800 power. So he's stronger than Onigawara. And then we have Kenzaki, right? And then we have Akagi and Gozu. And it shows that like, so apparently Fuji's a little bit stronger. Kenzaki, Akagi, and Gozu are all about the same. Onigawara and Hanazawa is a lot more powerful. And then Bandai is a bit stronger than the other guys. Interesting. All right, I want to see what comes out of this eye real quick. Because something was jumping out of it. And I want to know before next week. I just, seeing it, happen to see, and coming out of the building, I want to see what's coming down. Oh! It almost seems like Mob, but maybe it's Ritsu. Might be Ritsu coming out of the eye. Interesting. Interesting indeed. So, Exaltation. I've obtained loss. I've obtained loss, and thus I have no more limits. So I'm going to put here, I've obtained loss. I've lost my limit. Interesting. All right. So we're going to go through this with Ritsu and kind of fill in the gaps with our gang leaders here. Episode 7. I have a rule of 8. If there's a short series, like 12 episodes, the 8th episode is always a really good one. And that's next week where Mob has shown up to see his brother. So I'm sure that's going to be insane. So there we go. So, oh, Dimple, sweetie. Like, Ritsu doesn't even know what he is. So he basically... Dimple's like, I made it back from the particle level by myself. He basically pulled a Cell from Dragon Ball Z and reconstructed himself. But his spiritual power is way less than it used to be. So I can't go into the house anymore. It seems that low-level spirits can't even go near this place because Shigeo lives here. So that's a little bit of world building. Like, they normally can't be low-level spirits because Mob lives there and he prevents them from coming close. Interesting. He like kind of has a barrier around the place. And Ritsu's like, what the hell are you? Like, what is this ugly jellyfish looking thing that talks? And Dimple's just going at him like, don't you know who I am? Like, Ritsu, here's the thing. Ritsu back in episode 4, like around Mob, looked so soft. But ever since last episode, like he has become like dark side. Like he has just crossed over, right? So let's talk about Ritsu. We're going to put him up here. Old Ritsu here. Yeah, he just looks absolutely perturbed by him. He's like, the first thing that I need to do. And I love that both Mob and Ritsu, their first reaction to Dimple is just to like destroy him. I love he's like, I have to exercise it. And he like just drop kicks, like knee kicks him. And he's like, wait a minute. He's like, stop kneeing me in the face. I'm Mob's friend. Oh my God. And he's like, my brother. He's like, you could even call me his mentor, which is a lie. He's like, I'll let you off the hook because you panicked. Oh my God. I love he's got the little blood coming down from his nose. Oh, Dimple-sama. And he's like, come on, Richan. He's like, want to pair up with me? And like, he's like, no. He's like, absolutely not. He's like, that's too fast in denial. Oh my God. So he's always had the spoon in the pencil holder. I think that's such a cool little detail. He's always had the spoon there. Like, he's always wanted that psychic power. I forgot to mention in the comments, somebody had noted this, like, I think in last week's episode, but noted how this whole time that Mob has been eating and the spoons have been bending, it's been because of Ritsu. And Mob's just not realized it because Mob's like, I don't know why that's happening. It's that power's always been within Ritsu. And it seems like without a way for like Dimple channels it, right? Dimple helps him to channel it. But without Dimple there to channel it, Ritsu can't control it at all. And so even though he's like focusing on this spoon, it ends up affecting everything else around him, right? So he does not have the control that Mob does, which is interesting. But we find out, of course, we've known all along that Ritsu has always wanted powers. And as we find out from this episode, he's always had powers. It just took puberty and stress to bring them out. So, but Ritsu's always had them there. It's just finally awakened. And Ritsu's like, I have psychic powers? It's like, yeah. And he's like, the fact that you can see me is proof because we know Reigen cannot. He's like, I'm Dimple. I'm basically what they call a ghost. And he's like, my psychic powers are only strong enough to let you see me, to let me see you. And he's like, you haven't realized what your powers are, let alone how to use them. And so they get all the cutlery, and then he tries to bend them. But the thing is, and I think that that's kind of, it's interesting because Ritsu, his whole thing is that he focuses too hard. And it's funny, he's focusing too hard, but this, I feel like the spoons are representation. They're like a metaphor where he's focused on this one thing. He's not seeing the forest for the trees, right? He doesn't control the big picture. He's just thinking of, he's too narrow focused right now. He's not thinking of the big broader picture, kind of like what Mob does. And I like the Dimple's like, does he have a complex? And we're like, yeah, kind of. He kind of does have a complex. Quite a bit. And he's like, he says it's understandable given who his brother is. And that's the thing, is that Dimple-sama, or Dimple, I don't know why, I just love calling him Dimple-sama, but Dimple says that Ritsu would likely be jealous of Mob. And the thing of it is that Ritsu, he's always respected Mob, but he wants to be equal to him. And here he's like, I have a possibility, a chance to outdo him. And I'm like, no, honey, you don't. But that's cute that you think that. And then in Mob's thing is that Mob looks up to Ritsu and envies him. He envies him because Ritsu has everything that Mob wants. Like, Mob wants the ability to, like, be able to talk to girls and talk to people and read social cues, and he can't. And Ritsu can, so Mob really respects that and kind of envies it. And Ritsu's like, well, you have all these special powers. I wish I had that. So it's like, it's the grass is greener on the other side scenario, except now Ritsu has a chance to, like, have it all, right? And that's the scary thing, right? He's like, it's not bending. And then he's like, and then when he screams at Dimple, he's like, it's not bending. I'm like, Ritsu has some anger issues, right? Ritsu has some anger issues. Whereas Mob controls it well. Mob can suppress his rage pretty well. Ritsu is such an empath. Ritsu wears his emotions just like out there in the open all the time, and Mob internalizes so much, right? Oh my God. And Dimple's like, calm down. And he's like, look and see all the spoons. And he's like, did I do this? And he's so happy. He's like, and then he asked Ritsu to join him. He's like, if you want to surpass your brother. And Ritsu says, surpass Nissan. He's like, is that possible? So here's the thing. At the time, he's always respected his brother, but his brother has been the standard of his world. He's always been the standard. So the idea that he could surpass him is so tempting. That he's like, I could be better than my brother. But the thing of it is that it's like he's getting drunk on all this power. And I feel like Mob just needs to be the big brother and be like, no. Because everything he's doing is going against what Mob stands for. He's like, no, you should not be using your powers to hurt people. You should not be using your powers at all. And he's like, can I be like my brother? And it's like, but your brother doesn't hurt people or use his powers. They're only there if needed to help people, right? That's the problem, is that Ritsu just thinks that there are powers, that the powers to use, but Mob is like, how do we use those powers? And so he's like, we don't hurt people. We only use them to help. We use them sparingly, right? You shouldn't have to rely on them all the time. And so the thing of it is like, yeah, you can be like Mob, but you're not being like him. Not at all. Not in this episode. And Dimple's like, let me use your body. And it's like, no, ew. Meanwhile, I love that Mob's like, where's Ritsu? I love in this series when they eat food, like the mom's fine, but the dad and Mob's face have like little flecks of food all over them. It's kind of cute. I like it. Also on their fridge, it looks like they have a little alien magnet, which is cute. Like, and he's like, is he feeling down? And she says, no, he seemed oddly happy. Yeah, and Ritsu's sitting there like, how do I get to use my powers freely? And he's like, well, it's better to try them out rather than to explain. He's like, don't call me Richan. He's like, okay. And so I'll just call you Ritsu. And so he gets him to relax and he possesses him. And I like that I forgot that when Dimple possesses people, he like makes them have the little dimples on their face. And he's like, you fool, your body's mine. And he has like the electricity and everything. But then he slaps his face. He's like, I can't control his body because I'm too weak. And I love that he's like, where'd you go, Dimple? And like scratching at his cheeks. And he's like, my spiritual powers are too weak for me to control them. I can only amplify the output. And we see the psychic abilities. So we also have the student council president, Kimura. So the student council, we have meanwhile Kamaru and Ritsu, the pair of them. And Ritsu's not even the vice president, because the vice president starts to get a little bit mad. But so at first, the middle school, they praise them as heroes because they stopped the oh-so-bad delinquent from the crime that they set him up for. And so everybody's calling them heroes. And the president, again, is getting kind of drunk off the power of it. They're heroes of the school. And so Yamazaki, which is the bald guy, they corner him and try to frame him. And it's really, really sad because they're like, they just get onto really the stupidest, lamest things, right? And then we cut back to Ritsu and he's like, I can use psychic powers, Dimple. And he's like, I'm controlling the output. So yeah, of course. But you've always had latent psychic powers, Ritsu. And telling him that I'm deducing that the reason they came out now is due to your emotions. So, and it's so crazy because now Ritsu's finally able to do what he's wanted to do this entire time. And it's like, yeah, he's had a lot of stress. And that's why. Ritsu's personality is interesting because he's so emotional, but he kind of like him. You can tell him and Mom are brothers. The way that they kind of talk is similar, but he's so much more emotional. So much more emotional. And he says, oh, right, you're an honor student. Did you do something bad? And it's like, no, well, yeah, you did something bad. You framed the student for something that he didn't do. And so like I heard, and so that's exactly what they're doing now with Yamazaki is framing him. And yeah, that's stressing Ritsu out because he's doing something he's not supposed to be doing and they're lying. It's like, they basically lie. So they lie to frame the quote unquote delinquents at the school. Which is not good. Mob would not be proud of Ritsu in this episode. He would say that Ritsu's doing very bad things, right? Which is really sad. And Yamazaki, like, gets out of the way there. And so they basically offer him, they're like, well, we'll get you out of trouble if you say that it was Onigawara. And he doesn't rat out Onigawara. None of them do. And so they all get banished, right? None of them ratted him out. And so the whole school had been cleaned up and turned into the optimal environment for academics. However, because of the considerable immoral strategy that was used upon certain students, there would be a deep black scar engraved in their lives. And the two that carried it out would have to live with that burden forever. So yeah, so they created the peaceful environment. They created the peaceful environment that Ritsu said he wanted for Mob, right? But now they have the burden of how they created it, right? Now they have to worry about that. Like the burden of how they created it is now upon them. And it's like, well, what do we do, right? And Mob has no clue this is going on, right? And so they either, and I love this comparison that Kamaru, he becomes drunk on the power. And we see the roses around him. A delusion of accomplishment. He was drunk on power with a delusion of accomplishment, right? Because his whole thing is that he's actually very pathetic. Kimura is actually really pathetic, and he has a really horrible home life, and so he's like seen as a failure at home and in his brother's shadow, and he's considered garbage, and so his room kind of emulates that feeling he has inside of him. And so here he gets drunk on the power, and he has this false sense of accomplishment that he's done something that his brother wasn't able to do, when the reality is it's all a sham, it's all a con, right? And it's funny, we talk about cons in this episode, and so that's kind of like he gets drunk on the delusion of the power, or suffered greatly, and we see the cactuses. And so Ritsu, we have the cacti, and he suffered greatly. So Ritsu is dealing with the grief and the guilt of what he's done. And in the OP, he's represented by a cactus. So it's like, yeah, Ritsu is he's just this dry desert plant, right? Oh, I love it. I love that representation. That he's just, and now we see the spoon is bent. Oh, it's so good. Your powers are growing more, Ritsu. And he says corruption and guilt. Oh my God. So Ritsu is like, this thing is that corruption and guilt feeds his power. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to. I'm like, Ritsu, honey, it doesn't have to be that way. He's like, those are the things that become fuel for my powers. It's like, Mob doesn't have corruption and guilt fueling him. Mob is he just has the power automatically on his own. No, Ritsu, what are you doing, honey? And Dimple is not a good mentor. Dimple is the opposite of Reigen. Dimple is not a good mentor. He's not doing something good with Ritsu about all of this. And he's like, Dimple, you won't stop talking. And he's like, oh, if I were able to control my powers on my own, could I make you disappear? And Dimple's like, is his personality changing too? I was like, Dimple, what have you done? But here's the thing. I don't think that they're changing. I think it's just, the thing of it is that Ritsu has always had this label and persona of the good child, right? That he has the top grades, that he's athletic, and that he's popular. But none of those things matter to Ritsu. Ritsu has always just wanted the powers that his brother has. That's all that he's wanted. And so now that he has them, it's one of those things, like Ritsu's reminding me a little bit of Light Yagami. I'm just going to say, if you've ever watched Death Note, he's reminding me a little bit of Light, only in the sense, and I've not finished Death Note, so please no Death Note spoilers, but I just have to put it out there that, you know, a big thing in Death Note, without spoiling anything, is that the main character has this persona of being the good child, the good student, the popular one, and then finds a way of gaining power in another sense, and kind of gets a little drunk off that power. And that's kind of how Ritsu is in this moment. He's finally got what he wanted, and now it's like, it's just all encompassing him, right? And he just is so drunk off of that. And Dimple's like, this might have been a mistake going after this boy who's kind of like having some issues. And now he's using his powers to like change all the spoons and everything. And he goes back to the Awakening Lab. He goes back to show off his powers to the guide and the psychic. Like, he went back to see them. Oh. And they're like, amazing. They're like, that's amazing, Kageyama-kun. And he says, do you want me to keep going? Do you want me to fold your car in half, Mitsuru-san? It's like, that's, like, he just is so, like, consumed by that power. And he's like, oh, what? No. He's like, what happened to this kid? Like, he's not the same as he was before. And of course, that's when he gets stopped by, again, Ritsu. And he, like, sighs and like, can I help you, gentlemen? Ritsu is a lot, he kind of is similar to Teru, right? Or I'm going to put the old Teru. He's similar to the old Teru in that he believes that he could be the best or one to cause change with his powers. That's kind of thing. I don't think Teru ever wanted to like cause change or like become a warden of justice or whatever. Teru just wanted to like be the strongest and most powerful out there. And I guess Ritsu wants that too. But they're very similar, Ritsu and Teru are. I can't believe they've met in this already. I was like, I wanted Teru and Ritsu to meet, but I did not think it was going to happen this soon. And the fact that Teru has turned a new leaf, oh my god, I love it. It's so freaking good. And then so Ritsu, being such an edgelord, drops the bag and gets Dimple inside him to amplify his powers. And then uses it to knock out the guys. And I'm like, that's what Mob does not want you to do. But the thing of it is, Ritsu has not seen Mob using his powers or being in a situation where he would be asked to use his powers. So he doesn't know Mob's strategy of Mob just doesn't use them. Ugh. And then I like those girls who are like, oh, it's scary to fight, but isn't that guy's hair even more amazing? More amazing! Oh my god, Teru and the hair. The giant Marge Simpson hair. Oh my god. That explains in OP2 why he has all the big hair. What? Why does he have, he's like, Teru is so self-conscious about his hair loss that he's overcompensated with this giant ass wig. But here's the thing. Mob would not judge him. If he showed up to Mob with the giant wig, Mob would not judge him in a heartbeat. Mob is just too nice for that. We did not have Mob Harley at all in this episode, and I'm glad that we got to see him a little bit. And so yeah, Teru and Ritsu meeting. Oh my god. And then Nipple's like, oh shit, it's him! He's like, I think that's enough. Top of Teru's head! 150%! God, why? That wig, it looks like a stack of straw. It looks like a big straw stack. It's, God, why? Why is there so much? Dude, you're overcompensating. He's like, if you grow dependent on that, you're gonna get hurt. Like, Teru has met the religion of Mob, and it has changed him, right? Because Teru is like, no, I learned from a guy, and he doesn't know that Ritsu is Mob's brother. He doesn't know. He doesn't know yet. And so he's like, hey, I learned from a guy a long time ago. Those psychic powers, they're not what you think that they are. And so he's like, you're going to get hurt. And he's like, you've got the wrong idea. Why are these girls taking pictures of him? They're like, it's so long. And there's like this old man like in the corner, like, what is happening? And they're like taking a photo next to him. He's like, you've got the wrong idea. You think you're someone really special. It's hard looking at someone who reminds me of my old self. This is a warning. Don't try to live relying on psychic powers. Man, it's like fighting Mob changed Teru's entire outlook on life. And he realized he was a big fish in a little pond. And he's like, he's trying to tell Ritsu to do the same. And Ritsu's like, what? He's like, are you an Esper? And he's like, I don't know who you are, but I have no need to take warnings from you. And Dimple's like, don't try to take a bite at him. This guy's really strong. He's not somebody you can beat. He's like, and then Ritsu thinks that Teru, see, here's the thing. Ritsu assumes that his brother is like the extraordinary Esper and that he's stronger than everybody else. He is. But Ritsu thinks that everybody else around them that are Espers are like those kids that were at the Awakening Lab. No, that's clearly not true because Teru is like he is. The guy in the hoodie is like he is. So I'm like, no. I was like, And so he goes, he's like, I want to compare my powers with him. Just like Ritsu, just like Teru was. Ritsu is acting exactly like Teru had with Mob. And he holds his hand out and Dimple's like, you're an idiot. Stop. But here's the thing. Teru instantly grabs his hand. Instantly grabs it. Which is what Mob was trying to do with Teru back in episode 5. He was trying to grab his hands to be friends. And so Teru beats him to the punch. But here's the thing. Teru not only wants to be like, hey, let's not fight, friend. Let's not fight. But he also wants to show Ritsu that I am stronger than you and I said we shouldn't fight. So he grabs his hand and then he's like, why, thank you for the handshake. I'm Hanazawa Teruki. It's a pleasure. And then he like pours all his power into him and Ritsu's like, oh shit. And Dimple's like, do not try to fight him. Let go of his hand. And he's like, it brings him to his knees. He's like, oh, are you having trouble staying on your own 2 feet? And they're outside the Success Academy. Oh, you're so young. They're the same age. He's like a than you. But yeah, oh my gosh. And then, but then there's a strong wind and he grabs his hair to hold it on. And he's like, run, get away from him. Oh my God. It's absolutely brilliant. And he's like, I was surprised at how strong he was. And his brain was so developed. And is that why he was strong? I love we have like the Egyptian hieroglyphs. And Dimple's like, no, that's because his wig didn't fit correctly. Though I'm sure that's why. I'm not sure why he's wearing it. I don't think Dimple wasn't around. Dimple had been reduced before Teru got beaten by Mob. So Dimple doesn't know what happened. So he doesn't know about the hair being gone. And then, here's the thing. Ritsu's like, I'm so frustrated. I can't believe I lost to someone other than Nissan. So Ritsu thinks that there's still a chance he can't beat Mob, but he should be able to beat anybody else that's not Mob. Well, that's that big fish in a little pond syndrome kicking in, right? He's like, Dimple, I want to get even stronger so I won't lose to anyone. And then we cut to Mob. So the thing of it is that Ritsu, he wants to be stronger. And I don't think that Ritsu's totally gone to the dark side necessarily. I think that Ritsu has good intention. He wants to be strong so that he can stand up to everybody other than his brother. Because he knows his brother's strong, but he also knows his brother is innocent and a sweet summer bean. And so he wants to be able to protect his brother. He wants to be on equal footing with Mob so he can protect him from everybody else. But Mob doesn't really need protecting. He just needs, someone else to guide him in other ways, right? Like we see with the art shop, like the woman that says, do you have a moment? And I'm like, she's sitting there sparkling, and I'm like, Mob, you learned from the cult back in episode 3, do not go into buildings with strangers, honey. What are you doing? Stop. But he doesn't listen. And instead he goes into the gallery. Now this is interesting. I thought that this woman the whole time with the vase, I thought she was trying to I thought the vase had a spirit in it and she was trying to get him to take it home. Or I thought she was working with an organization trying to spy on Mob and his brother and that had some kind of infiltration or wiretapping in it and that he was going to take it home and it was going to spy on him. But no, they're just a bunch of scam artists and they're literally trying to get a kid to buy their product. And we see a seizing general banknote. And he's like, my parents aren't rich. They don't have any extra money. And so she tries to get him to owe them money by breaking the object. And the thing is, he's psychic and he puts it back and then she gets him to crack it, right? But the thing of it is that she kind of looks like Reigen. She looks like a female version of Reigen, right? And then the other guy comes in the big crazy suit. And poor Mob, he's like, I didn't mean to touch it. It's not my fault. Oh no. And then he comes in there and tries to get him to use his phone to call his parents so that they'll bring the money to pay for the item. They're that kind of scam artists. And then, but Mob doesn't call his parents. He calls Reigen, or Reigen was on the other line. God, I love this scene of Reigen showing up, hand in his pocket, just what's up, Mob? You called me out here when I've got a customer. And Mob's like, I broke the vase. And they're like, are you this boy's guardian? And he's like, I see. Reigen is not someone that you mess with, though. And this was so amazing. The fact that he's like, that vase is cheap. And when he grabs him, he's like, oh, you've cracked my clavicle. He's like, that's going to cost you $1 million in hospital bills. Oh, are you going to verbally assault me? That's going to cost you another $1 million. He's like, did you hurt my suit? That's going to cost you another $1 million too. So he's basically like, do not try to con me, sir, because I will outdo you. And I was like, Reigen, honey. Reigen is amazing in this episode for the 2 minutes that he's on screen. Because he's like, don't try to con a con artist. It's not going to work. And so, But he manages to get Mob out of it. He's like, look, you guys have just roughed me up with enough to pay for the vase. So let's go. And I love that Mob's just sitting there and he just grabs Mob. He's like, let's go, Mob. Oh. And then he says, they're like, you broke the vase of happiness. And so some misfortune will fall him. And then Reigen, with the red lighting, he's like, I was just talking to someone who had been haunted by an evil spirit. And he's like, apparently the spirit has now decided to haunt me. He's like, and when that happens, you keep hearing strange noises at night, and weird things pop up in pictures, and it becomes unbearable. He's like, though the spirit might have transferred to you guys now. And he's just like so scary, right? And they're like, what? But here's the thing. And they're like, a ghost? He's like, doesn't feel great, does it? That's exactly what's happening to you. Reigen's like, oh, you've been trying to like scam these kids and it's stupid. So now I'm going to try to do it the same to you. Doesn't feel great, right? And they laugh at him. But then they're like, but then all the lights go out. Like the lights all burst and the vase like explodes. And the thing of it is when that happened, like Mob looks surprised. And I was like, Reigen didn't do that, did he? But then, and they're all so freaked out. And then we cut to the ramen shop where Mob and Reigen are having ramen. And he's like, well, that sure shut him up quick. And he's like, that last bit was great, Mob. And he's like, what? And he's like, well, you shook the building to scare them, didn't you? And I missed this part. Mob said, no, I thought it was you sending the evil spirit after them. And then, and I love that the whole time Mob is telling him, he's like, I thought it was that evil spirit you sent after him. And Reigen's just eating his food nonchalant. Like, inside, he's internally screaming and trying to thinking of what he's going to say to Mob because he's like, oh, there was an actual evil spirit? Okay, great. Because that's very plausible. That woman came to his shop and passed the spirit on to him, and he was like, okay, and then he passed it on to the shop. But he sits there stirring like it's no big deal. And then he's like, could it be that you couldn't see the spirit? And he's like, oh, of course. No, I could see it. And your Mom's like, oh, con artists are terrible people. And this part is so interesting. So Reigen kind of gets around and he's like, oh, no, I knew it was a spirit all along. Yeah. And so Mob says, con artists are terrible people. And Reigen looks at him and he doesn't say anything. And I was like, how is Reigen going to respond to that? Because up until now, we, the audience, have viewed Reigen as kind of a con artist, right? And so when Mom says that con artists are terrible people, I'm like, well, how are you going to respond to that, Reigen? Because it's kind of calling you out. And his response, he looks to the side and he's like, yeah. He says, only the lowest of the low try to take advantage of someone's weakness. So here's the thing, right? Reigen, in Reigen's mind, he says that only the low take advantage of someone's weakness. Now, does that describe a con artist? Yes, that is exactly describing the people that were in the art gallery. But here's the crazy thing. Does that describe Reigen? The way that he phrases that, it leaves him out. Because if you think about it, the very first person, the couple with the ghost, he really wasn't taking advantage of their weakness. He went there and exorcised the ghost. The guy with the shoulder pain, he got the muscle pain out. The people with the photo, he got the ghost out of the photo. He didn't really take advantage of any of them. He solved their problems. I mean, the only one I can think of is the guy that pulled a knife on him. But even in that case, it's like that ended up kind of being a cause towards Reigen attacking him being justified. But Reigen really hasn't took advantage of someone's weakness. I mean, I guess the man that had the father dying would be the only one I can think of, really. But it's interesting how he phrases that. And that description that he gives ties directly to the president and to Ritsu. It ties directly to the student council president because he is taking advantage of people's weaknesses, of their status, of their reputation. And Ritsu's an accomplice, so it's guilt by association, right? And so in the student council room, we see the vice president. We see the stereotypical anime guy with the swirl glasses. Every anime has them. Sailor Moon, everyone. And so the student council vice president, the girl says, yes. He said, you're trash too? And all I was doing was chewing gum during class. And the vice president's like, Kamuro, the school doesn't belong to you. I love that the vice president has this very like serious, dramatic hero pose. So the rest of the student council is catching on to the fact that Kamuro is drunk on power. and that he needs to kind of be put in his place. And then they're at the top of the school building in the stereotypical anime fashion. He's like, we have to deal with the smaller pieces of trash. Let's keep it moving. And Ritsu's like, are we still going to keep this going? He's like, come on. And he's like, are you suggesting that we stop? And Ritsu's like, I just felt like throwing up. You're trying to relieve some stress, right? He's like, is that why you're doing this? Because you're stressed out? Ritsu's like, are you just doing this because your home life sucks and you're just trying to project that onto other people to make yourself feel better? Because it seems like that's what you're doing. And he says, I was correct in choosing you as an accomplice. If you knew, why'd you decide to help me? And Ritsu says, because I was tired. I think I've gotten tired of myself. I wanted to know what it felt like to be a fool. So again, tying to Ritsu and how he's viewed, he's like, I was tired of being the good boy. He's like, I wanted to test out being a fool. He's like, I wanted to play bad boy for a while and see what that felt like. But the thing of it is, Ritsu wasn't being a bad boy. He was just being a fool. Now, in the alleyway fight, he's being a bad boy, right? And the president's like, a fool? He's like, but in the end, we're popular. And I'm like, well, they're not about to be. And they say that they're heroes of the school. I'm like, no, the student council's about to shut that down because they've gone too far. They flew too close to the sun. And I love that Dimple's like, so that old-looking guy wanted to be popular? It's so meta. Like, Dimple says what we're all thinking, right? And I love that. The idea of Ritsu clinching the wire and looking outside being like, I've obtained a much bigger world. He's like, I've realized that there's a bigger world out there that I can be a part of. Mm-hmm. And so then we cut back to the telepathy club. And they're like, by the way, President, did you find any telepaths? And I think that's where I got in the early part of the series confused with Mob, because they kept calling them the telepathy club. And I was like, oh, well, Mob's a telepath, but he's not. That's the problem. Tomei wants somebody that can read people's minds and seek out aliens. And so I love Inukai. I love they're playing. She's like, there's a bomb cheating. And Goda's like, can you be a little quieter? I love these, like, I'm not done talking to him yet. Goda, I love he's having this heart-to-heart talk with Onigawara. And he's like, oh, sorry. I love that Goda's just sitting there like butt out, like looking super muscular. It's great. He's like, Musashi, that's enough. He's like, it's not. Man up. He's like, go to class, Onigawara. He's like, I've got no place there. None of my friends will talk to me anymore. Aww. And then that's when she's like, oh, shit, it's the student council. And for a second I was like, don't you dare attack the Body Improvement Club. No, you've crossed a line with them. They're too pure. And I was waiting for Mob to be here, but he wasn't. I'm like, what are you doing here, Onigawara? And he's like, infiltrating the school when you haven't been showing up to class. He's like, no. He's like, if I stay at home, my mom will ask me why. I'm like, Onigawara just doesn't want his mom to know about all of it. He doesn't want to, like, stress her out. I'm like, oh, bless his heart. He's been hiding in the Body Improvement Club. And then Goda's like, listen, Onigawara didn't do anything. Oh. And so it's like, the president threatens to deal with Goda and them as accomplices. And he points to, like, his badge as student council president. But then they call him out to the front gates because the guys in the other middle schools are showing up. And it's just like, oh, it's awful. And so then, yeah, Kenzaki Yudo shows up. Ridiculous. To, like, challenge them. And he's like, all got the muscle built. Like, it's all just the most ridiculous for a middle schooler. He's, like, more ripped than Goda. And then Ritsu decides to deal with him. And he deals with him. And he says, that was self-defense. But he said he was going to deal with him, so it wasn't, right? And so Ritsu starts to use his powers to fight others, which is what Mob told everyone not to do. That's against Mob's main O. He's like, his MO is not to use his powers, especially to hurt others. Oh, I don't like it. And he says it was self-defense. He's like, there were school students from the school, so it shouldn't matter. To think he was one to fight. and to be strong on top of it. And so then the student president, he gets beat up by these guys. And I love that they have the uniforms that are like Kuwabara from Yu Yu Hakusho. It's great. And he says he was just watching, but it's that guilt by association, right? It goes two ways. It goes Ritsu being guilty for being associated with Kamuro, and then it's Kamuro vice versa. And I love that they toss him onto a bag of trash, like in his room, and there's like a crow pecking at him. And so he comes back and tells Ritsu to stop, and Ritsu's like, wow, you look awful. And he's like, yeah, I got beat up because there were people that saw you fighting, and they decided to teach me a lesson. Because I was an accomplice. He's like, don't you understand that? And he's like, it was deserved. Oh. And then he gets beat up again. Right? And I love that. I love that it shows him like dramatically running away and the line work and everything, all the shading. It's great. Oh. But then he's like in his home and all the trash. And the vice president comes to see him and he won't see anybody. And he's like, okay, fine. But Ritsu does not wait for the doorbell to let him in. He like gets in by himself. He says, what a terrible room filled with garbage. I think what you should have cleaned up was this room. So it's like Kamuro, instead of cleaning himself, he projected all that onto the school and onto others, right? And Kamuro's like, why are you here? He's like, how'd you get in here? He's like, there are plenty of small pieces of trash left at the school. And he's like, I'm done with all that. I don't want any more. And he throws the trash at him and he's like, it's too late. We did something unforgivable. No one's going to save us. I'm like, Ritsu, why are you such an edgelord? Why are you so dark? Like, Ritsu is just like, it's unforgivable. We have to atone now. I was like, what is happening? Ritsu, no, you don't. Why are you being this way? And Kamuro is just like, he just like collapses. Kamuro just falls to pieces. He can't take it anymore. What is this episode? Oh my god. And then why is Ritsu at the top of the tower? Why? Why is he like this? Oh my god. The school's been broken. The puppet's been broken. Now the school is clean. What is this like fire and brimstone that Ritsu is doing? What is this? Oh my god. He's like, what are you doing now? It's like, the other schools are going to show up again. And I can do whatever I want as long as I have these powers. Oh, honey. Oh, no. And he's like, and then Dimple's like, yes, you can be a superstar. You can do anything. You're exactly the person that I've wanted to, like, enhance their powers, like I tried to do with Mob. And Dimple is kind of cute. When Dimple does a little happy thing, he is kind of cute there. I'll give Dimple that. And he says, Dimple, you're trying to use me, aren't you? And Dimple's like, oh, what are you talking about, Ri-chan? I thought we were best buddies. We're partners. Oh, my God. And then all the middle schoolers show up to fight him. And they're like, I want to see what school that one guy was from. Okay, I almost had Akagi. Yeah, I want to see where Akagi is from because it showed up here. He was the only one I was missing. Yeah, from Noodle Soup Base! Noodle Soup! Oh my god, I love it. Noodle Soup. These middle schools. I don't know, Soy Sauce Middle School might be my favorite. I do like the guy that's Bandai. He's great. I like their uniforms too, the soy sauce. But yeah, Ritsu's are like, here they come. He's like, there are quite a few today. I'm like, honey, what are you doing? And then Teru, because Teru is like the main guy from his middle school, from Black Vinegar, he says, I came to see what was going on. And of course, it was the other guy. He's like, are you white tea poison that defeated Hanazawa and Kinsa? And then I like Teru's like, he's pretending to be Kageyama? It's like, well... He says, I think things will be settled once I deal with you guys. So Ritsu just thinks, he's like, once I deal with you guys, everything's going to be settled and all the fights will be over. I'm like, honey, that's not how these things work. He's like, so let's just say that I am. And then Teru says, I'm going to have to ask Kageyama about this. So apparently Teru has been talking to Kageyama, or he's going to now. I'm glad that Teru and Mob are talking, but oh my god. And so he leaves to go tell Mob about it. And then we have the guy in the hoodie that says, I found something interesting. I found him. I'll apprehend him and head back. So he's the guy in the hoodie has been looking for Mob. I have a feeling he's not with the little Kitty Awakening Club. I have a feeling that he's maybe with the big council that we see in the OP that look like a group of maybe espers. Ah, God. Before that, I want to see how good he is. No. And so then I love that he's like, possession is his power. And it's just Dimple. I'm like, and it does look impressive. But it's like, no, you're nowhere near Mob. You're nowhere near his power. And he just suspends all of them and then wipes them out, like one by one. He makes the Gozu guy kiss Akagi. Why? I hope they become a ship. I hope they become a couple after this. They've realized their feelings for each other and they become a pairing. I really hope for that. Oh, but the fact of it is, I'm like, Ritsu hurts him. Like, he knocked that guy into the ground, like, straight up into the ground. But the thing of it is, when Mob was fighting Teru, Mob could use his powers to defend himself. So he wasn't really getting hurt. Not that much. But these guys are not psychic. They don't have those abilities. And so, whenever he's like... Then he gives this speech. Ritsu gives a speech about what's about to happen. And they're like, is white tea poison doing that? They're like, let's all charge at him at once. And he's like, I love when he looks at them, he says, I will not judge you people because I now know when people stray from the right path, there usually isn't an actual reason. Oh my God, he gives this speech. So he's like, people stray from the right path, often for no reason. He's like, so I won't judge you all. He's like, because I know what that's like. And he says, it's like that even now. I'm facing enemies that have lost all the will to fight. I'm moving forward for the sake of violence. Oh my God. Okay, Aaron. All right, moving forward for the sake of violence. Oh my God. And he has like the black and white sketch. There's no reason. Oh my God. This kind of freedom is strong. So he says that he's moving forward for the sake of violence. There's no reason. And this freedom is strong. He's like, I don't have a purpose of why I'm using my powers. I'm just doing whatever I want. I'm freer than all of you. And he says, I'm freer than you because he's obtained loss. He says, why? Because I've lost my limits. I've obtained loss. So he feels like there's nothing holding him back. He's like, now that I have these powers, whatever was limiting me before is no longer limiting me. I can do whatever I want and I'm free. And it's like, no, Maba says you should not do that. You should limit yourself. There should be limits in place. Yeah, he wipes out everybody. And then that's when Mob shows up. I thought it was going to be the guy in the hoodie, but it's like, no. And he's like, Ritsu, what are you doing? And that's the episode. Ah! Ah! So yeah, Ritsu, after all this time, finally gets psychic powers. Dimple is not a good influence, and he's just doing whatever he wants. And Mob's like, that's not the right thing to do. Oh my God. Oh my God. So yeah, that's where we're at. That's what we're at with Mob Psycho. Oh my God. And so next episode, Ritsu has to face up to Mob, and oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So yeah, I'm really excited, as you can tell. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please, no spoilers, but I'm curious to know about the message with this episode, like with Ritsu, like opening up his powers, with Kamuro, with Onigawara and Goda, with Mob finding out. I'm so curious to know your thoughts about this episode, like the themes of it, but please, no spoilers about the plot. Next week is going to come all too soon. So, in any case, and Reigen, how our boy Reigen, it's so funny that over the course of this season, we're past the halfway point, and I've gone from thinking that he was a trash king. Someone in the Discord, I think it was Kiri, was like, no, Dimple Sama is the actual trash king. And I was like, fair enough. But we've gone from Reigen being the trash king to being like a legit guardian for Mob that helps him out and gives him decent advice. Who knew? And they can talk his way out of anything. So, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, but this was an amazing episode. And I'm really excited for the Rule of 8 next week. Should be a good one, right? Because the guy in the hoodie is watching from above. If he's still there. Oh, God. We'll see. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with more Mob Psycho 100. Bye.